Welcome to Wildspire. You get to be a fly on the wall for my intimate conversations with entrepreneurs who are changing the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Benedetto, coach, storyteller, and unmarketer at The Awakened Business, helping coaches and change-making entrepreneurs unleash their inspired message and share it with playful unmarketing. I'll ask curious questions and explore uncharted waters with my guest today. Anything can happen when we step into the unknown of infinite creativity, and that's where we're going to play. My guest today is Martin Dara. We talk about the power of living without expectation, following what draws you, and stumbling into relationships and friendships and jobs. And Martin shares a very simple and powerful message for kids of every age. Let me tell you a little bit about Martin Dara. Martin Dara is a certified transformational coach. He helps children, parents, and teams change the way they see the world. He's embracing his role as a human being and helping others recognize their infinite possibilities. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Martin Dara. Mr. Martin Dara, welcome to Wildspire. I've never welcomed someone like that before. That was just for you, my friend.
I appreciate that. Wildspire.
Yes. So I want to tell the story of how I met you. Do you remember? Do you remember? Well, you're going to find out if you remember or not. You'll tell me.
I think so. I think I remember, but I'd love to hear your end of it.
Yes. So we've never met in person. We've only ever met digitally. And my first meeting of you, my first impression of you came through I don't remember which course it was we were on, one of Michael Neal's courses, right? Mm-hmm. And there you were asking questions on the screen. And I remember remarking to my partner afterward, I'm like, there's this guy, Martin. He's just got such a kind face. I really like him. He's such a kind face. And my partner's like, okay, whatever. But that was my first impression of you. And then I think we messaged on Facebook and I came on your podcast and, that was it. That was the beginning of whatever this is, this crazy thing, this crazy ride that we're on. Yeah. So I'm really happy to have you here. Oh, was that what you remembered, or did you remember something different?
But definitely, that was what I remembered for sure. I remember you messaged me and shared with me that I thought it was kind eyes, but maybe it was kind face or something along those. It was kind something.
It was kind something.
But something you did forget to mention was that was like our only interaction. And then you came on my podcast like the next week. And so we never had like this introduction kind of like, who are you? Like, what do you do? Like you and your friend,
Glenn Livingston, good Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Yes. You and Glenn showed up and just absolutely killed it. And it was the most fun podcast like ever. We just had a great time and we didn't even know each other. And I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah. And I thought it was the coolest thing that you asked me to invite any guest to your podcast. I love that idea so much. And I wanted to invite someone who would be different from who I thought you might have on and was different from me. And yet I knew it would be fun. And yeah, that's why I invited Glenn because, he's a wild card, super smart, but like goofy as hell.
Definitely. It was awesome. That's been one of my favorite things about my podcast, having that second guest. Because most of the time I'll at least know the person that I invited. And then I tell them, you could bring a guest. And very, very rarely have I known both people. It's happened, a handful of times. In your case, I really didn't know either of you.
Just invite a stranger on your podcast. Why not?
Yeah. And it was amazing. And then like months after that, we finally did like the, hey, by the way, like, who are you call? And we finally met each other on Zoom, which was amazing.
Yeah. So what do you make of that, Martin? Like,
I don't even know what to make of that. I think that it's just that people can, people just find a way into each other's lives. And I think that it's so cool. And I think as soon as you like, you almost like know immediately, like there's something about this person that I'm like, and I like being around them. And so I'm going to do more things to be around them more often, I think is basically what I'm trying to get at. I don't really know exactly the words how to put it, but it was just like I had so much fun and I just wanted to hear you more because I heard you speak on those calls as well and loved, your energy and the way that you asked the questions. And I just feel like, I don't know if it's the coaching community that makes it so inviting to just talk to people and connect, or maybe, I don't really know what it was, but
it might have something to do with you, but maybe it has nothing at all.
it might. And it's so funny how many people, talked about COVID that like, oh, like I haven't been out and I haven't met people and I haven't done this. And I felt like my relationship with that was just a complete opposite. I met so many people since COVID started through, Zoom and, electronics and digitally meeting people. And it's been amazing. And there's some people I haven't met in person, including yourself, but it's been amazing. I feel like we are like good friends at this point, and we haven't like hugged or shook hands or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it is. It is a really fun way to live, to just follow those random nudges and see where they take you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of it. Your kind eyes or face or whatever it was, and an invitation to a podcast, and then see what happens next. What happens next? I don't think either of us had any expectation. I wasn't hitting on you, I swear. And I don't think that was happening with you either. Like it was just like, hey, they look cool. Like, let's see what happens. And when we show up with life that way, it greets us that way. It meets us there. It's just very cool.
And I think it's funny that you say that, like that you weren't hitting on me, because I feel like there's like, not, it's like there's some sort of like attractiveness. Like I'm attracted to like that energy, and like I want to be like around people that have that same energy. It doesn't matter like what you look like. Like I'm not attracted to, a face or like this. Like I'm attracted to that energy. And I think that you brought that. And I think that we kind of share that energy a little bit. And I don't know, it's just interesting. That word like popped up and then you said hitting on, and I was like, that, like when people say like, oh, I'm attracted to her, you automatically think of looks. But I don't, it wasn't like that. I don't know how to really explain it. I don't know where I'm going with this, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that too. There's a purity about it when it doesn't need to mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's that nudge saying, oh, I wonder what that person's like. They seem cool. Let me go find out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that simple. And friendships evolve, and sometimes clients come out of it, and partners and opportunities and all kinds of adventures that we never would have imagined if we hadn't just simply said yes to something that small and simple and easy.
Definitely. And I feel like it's almost lost a little bit as you get older. I think like, when you're kids, you just show up and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be my friend just strictly because you're here. Like you're like, maybe, you live down the block, like, all right, we're going to be friends. Like, but once you start to get older, you kind of lose that. You're like, oh, like, they have a Yankees flag on their front lawn. Like I can't go talk to them. Or like, I see their, whatever it is, like they have a sign on their front lawn of who they're voting for. So I can't go near that guy, or, whatever it is. There's certain things, and you just like, you don't have that same curiosity and like wonder as you do when we're kids, where you just don't even care.
You do, don't you? You do.
I think that I do. Yeah. I think that it doesn't really matter to me.
I do.
What you're up to. If you're up to something cool, I want to see what that is. I want to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. So Martin, we have this time and space together, and we can explore anything. What would you love to explore?
That is so fun and inviting. And like, I don't have a single idea of what to even go for right now. I'm I'll just start. I'm gonna just start rambling on, and we'll just kind of see if anything.
That works for me, because otherwise I'm just going to sit here and wait till you say something, or something happens, or something occurs to me, because, hey, I'm happy to just be here.
I am too. We don't have to talk about anything. What I've been noticing more and more lately over the last year or so, maybe even like the last 6 months, is like you were just kind of saying, is really just showing up with no expectation and seeing what else shows up from there. And I feel like I've been a part of some very good conversations and relationships and things like that, just by doing that, by just showing up. Like, I don't have that type of expectation or hope that like I could get something in return. And I was just speaking with my grandmother last night, and this was so cool of what she says. She's getting really old now, and I think she's 89 at this point. So she doesn't really drive much anymore, but she loves to give to people. Like, that's like her love language, like whatever you want to say. That's like, she's all about giving. And she doesn't even drive right now. So, but what she likes to do is she likes to cook for people. And she'll cook for the nuns that live at the convent down the block where I used to go to school. There's still like nuns that live there, and they don't have the best food or whatever. So, or they have to cook themselves. So she likes to cook for them. And they call her. They have like each other's phone numbers now and stuff. So she calls, says, "Oh, I'm dropping off food for you," and she tells them like, "Don't even send me it. Like, you don't even have to send me a thank you. I just want you to like to pray for me." And she said that to us last night, to me and my sister, and I was just like, that is like the coolest thing. Like, that was like the definition of like just showing up, like no expectations, like doesn't want anything in return. And I feel like that's almost lost a little bit, where even if people show up and they don't have an agenda, sometimes there's that secret agenda where like, oh, I kind of need to get this, like I'm hoping that you could do this. And when I started coaching, I noticed that I had that agenda. Like, I knew I could show up to a coaching session without an agenda, but getting to that point, I was always kind of like, well, I really want this person to be a client. I really want a testimonial from them. This person has a big business and a lot of followers. Like, if they could start to share some of my stuff, like maybe I could get more people to follow me. And I knew in the coaching session really how to show up without that. But getting there, it was really blocked by this agenda. And I didn't notice it at the time either, but it was really affecting me and really affecting my coaching business. So I think that it was really cool to kind of hear that from my grandma and kind of see what the difference is when you really do show up with no agenda and things just start happening all of a sudden. And you're like, wow, I didn't expect that to, happen. And I didn't expect to end up where I am now because of the conversations we were having, like that kind of thing. So that's just something I've been noticing through my other jobs that I've been working and through my conversation with my grandma last night.
So what changed, Martin, that let you drop that expectation that you had?
I think that I just started seeing it unfolding more. And what I mean by that is I started seeing how I didn't need to go in with this thing, because there's always something that we want, like, oh, I have my 5-year plan, or like, I want to get the promotion. I want to get this. And the more that you kind of let go of that, the more it seems like it's going to just show up like right on your doorstep, which is really crazy. So I don't know if you ever heard this story about how I got the teaching job where I'm at now, or even how I got my first coaching job. It was just zero expectations and just showing up and being there. And then the people realize like this, this guy isn't like taking advantage. He's not even looking for a job, or he's not even, asking for this. He's just asking for, just curious and just talking and having a conversation. And then people started to like what I was up to, and invited me in. So those couple of stories are crazy how it worked out. And I couldn't have imagined either one of them panning out the way that they did.
Do you want to tell them one of those in a little more detail?
Sure. Which one would you like to hear? We could go with the current teaching job or my first coaching job.
Which is more exciting? They're both exciting?
They're both pretty. I think the coaching job might be more exciting.
All right. Tell me about that one.
All right. So basically I graduated from college and started working at a finance company. But my like passion at the time was like, I loved basketball. Like basketball was my favorite sport. I would go on the court and like, I would really feel present and like, just really be there and just enjoy it and forget about everything else. And I knew like my athletic ability wasn't taking me any further. Like I just graduated college. Like, I wasn't going to the NBA or anything. So I was like, you know what? I want to be a coach. And I started reading about it and listening to podcasts and learning about like, what do I need to do to become a coach? And especially right out of college, like I didn't have really like much playing experience. Like I didn't play in college. I played in high school, but that was about it. So I'm listening to this podcast while I'm working at this job. And the two guys, they just keep mentioning, like talking so highly about this coach. Chris Lunn was his name. And he was the coach at this high school, Walt Whitman, down in Bethesda, Maryland. And so I'm listening and I'm like, I don't really know where Bethesda is, but I know that, it's not, there's people at my company that live there. Like I was working in Maryland and I was like, okay, so like it can't be that far if people work here, live there. So I go on the school's website, look up Walt Whitman, and I find the coach's email. And I reached out to him. I just said, hey, like I'm interested in coaching. I just graduated college. I live in the area. Like I would love to just like take you out to lunch and, ask you a couple questions about like becoming a coach. And that's, so he agreed. He responded, he answered me, and it was great. We met for breakfast actually. And he was asking me some questions about what I knew and where I came from. And I was asking him questions about coaching. And right then he offered me a job. So he offered me it was a volunteer position, but it was still like first year of college. Like I was ready to go. I was like, whatever, like I'll do it. I'm making enough money at this finance job. I could handle it. Let me just come in and see it. And it was like one of the best experiences ever. Like I didn't expect that to happen at all. And it just unraveled itself and things just kept positively happening. Like I kept showing up. I kept getting closer with the kids, learning about stuff from the coach, learning about the assistants. And the kids actually at some point asked me to be their head coach for their summer tournament. They had like a spring league and a summer tournament where the head coach of the team couldn't be the head coach. It had to be somebody else. So they asked me out of like the 5 assistants, which was so cool. So that was like one of the coolest things. And the best part of the story is we end up having our end of the year dinner, like the banquet. And we're sitting down at the table and there's somebody at the table, at the coach's table, that I didn't really recognize. And everybody, they start like making fun of the coach that he's like getting older. He's like, he was only going to be 40 basically. And he was like, yeah, look at Martin. I was 23 at the time. Like, look at Martin, he's 23. And I saw this guy I didn't recognize, like kind of look at me like kind of funny. And we end up going over, I go to get seconds at the buffet.
Of course.
And the guy's up there. Yeah, naturally. And this other guy's up there. I was like, hey, like, I didn't get to meet you. My name's Martin. And he asked, how did you get involved in this? So I told him the whole story. I was listening to this podcast, whatever. I met Coach Lon. And he goes, what was the name of that podcast? And I said, it was called The Hardwood Hustle. And he just sticks out his hand and he goes, I'm Adam Bradley. I'm the host. of the hardwood hustle. And I just thought, I was like, this is like, it was crazy. I was just full circle. And I just like thanked them. I was like, I love you listening to your show. And I love, like, thank you for getting me this job. Like, it was just the coolest thing. And it was just all like, just no expectations, just showing up and just doing what was the right thing and doing what felt good. And ultimately that led me to leaving my finance job because I was missing so many games and practices, because working at a mortgage company until 9 o'clock at night doesn't really allow you to go to many high school basketball games. So it all kind of unraveled from there, but it was just a great experience for me. And that's really what got me into coaching in the first place.
Wow. And now, did you end up in Thailand after that, or was that before?
It was after that. So
How did that happen?
So I realized that I wanted to be a teacher, because that's how you become a basketball coach, or like full-time basketball coach. But I had no credentials here, and my university, Loyola in Maryland, they had this relationship with the school in Thailand, and I was still living there, and I actually got let go from my job, my finance job, on a Tuesday afternoon. So I was emailing them about this. Somebody told me, hey, reach out to these people. These are the guys in charge of this trip to Thailand. Like, if you want to teach there, these are your guys. So I reached out to them in November of 2017, and nothing, no phone calls, no emails back, just blank, like no response. So like, all right, I guess like I'm not going to Thailand. Like, I guess it was a good try. Like, it would have been awesome, but that's not happening. And skip ahead in February. So this was now 4 months later. I get let go from this job on a Tuesday. My position closed because the mortgage rates went up. And that Thursday, I got an email from the people at Loyola, said, hey, sorry, we haven't responded, but there's a meeting tomorrow. If you're available, you could come to Loyola and we could share more information about going to Thailand. And I was like, hey, guess what? It's Friday afternoon and I have nowhere to be because I just lost my job. So I'm coming to you guys. And a few months later, I filled in all the requirements that I needed and I went to Thailand. And then the coaching journey, just continued from there, and got my training there and taught there, and was just, it's crazy how all of those things just kept going and unraveling.
Mm-hmm. There is this misunderstanding that I think a lot of people have, that we're supposed to know where we're going, that we have to know where we're going in order to get someplace good. Mm-hmm. And that the tighter my grip of control on that, like, oh, I got to do everything right, and I'm going to follow all the steps, and I'm going to do what so-and-so said I should do and not do the things that I'm not supposed to do. And I'm going to buy the expert system and follow it to the letter so I can get those guaranteed proven results. But the best adventures happen when you're just showing up without expectation, but fully engaged in what's happening, which is what I hear you doing. It's not like you just showed up and did nothing. You talked to people and you invited people to conversations and you initiated things and you followed your nudges. Man, the adventure unfolded for you. It just, did I say an unventure? An adventure unfolded. It's an unventure now. And it took you to places that, I never would have predicted that you'd end up in Thailand.
No.
But if you hadn't reached out to that coach, you might not have gone there. It might not have happened.
No, it's crazy. And what's really, interesting is it continued to happen after that. It continued after I got back to, the way I got into the coaching thing was the same kind of story where I just reached out. There was a meetup and I met the guy and I just loved him. And it was the same kind of energy. And I was just attracted to, what he was giving out, what he was sharing. And then once I got home, I had to come home because of COVID. And I started working at a bar, and just by working at the bar, you know, you have to have conversations with people. It's not like they're, you know, there to ignore you as the bartender. And that's what happened with the principal of my school. I didn't know she was a principal. We had, you know, maybe met 3 weeks in a row. She kept coming back Sunday nights because she liked my company or whatever. She enjoyed me. And then I told her the whole story, and she was like, "Hey, we need adults. So we need people in our school. So you're our guy." And now I'm teaching there full time. So it's the same, you know, it just keeps happening. And, you know, if you told me out of college that I would be an English teacher in New York, like after living in Thailand for 2 years, like I would have been like, there's no way I could have ever possibly predicted any of that. I wouldn't have even picked an English teacher if I would have said I would have been a math teacher, if anything. So even that in itself is just like, just a weird scenario.
Yeah. It is amazing where you will find yourself if you simply follow what you're drawn to for no reason.
Yeah. And what I would say too is in high school, I thought I could have been a math teacher. I was very good at math. I thought that was like maybe the path for me. I liked finance. I liked learning about like stocks and real estate and stuff like that. But I would hate to teach math right now. And I think that I hated reading in high school. I never did the reading assignments. I never read the books. I got lucky a couple of times with like, you know, Spark Notes or whatever, but I didn't like it. And now it's like, now I'm reading these books with these kids and I'm like, I love this stuff. Like, this is awesome. And I see like what they're doing in math and I'm like, I have no time for that. It's so crazy how that turned on it.
I've become convinced that I do not know what I really want until it's in front of me. And I find myself saying yes. Like I have an idea of, oh, that would be cool. And that would be cool. And I like being drawn to that. But when it comes, like I have been surprised. I'm living in Sarasota, Florida. I thought I hated Florida. It would have been probably toward the bottom of my list of places to live. But I actually really like it here. And I ended up here sort of accidentally. It was like this series of strange coincidences and COVID in the mix. But I could have gone other places and I didn't because I found myself saying yes. I'll tell you this little story. I don't know if I ever told you this before, Martin, but I had just moved from Tennessee and this was pre-COVID. So this was the end of 2019. And I had taken a pet sit in Sarasota, Florida for no reason other than I think that's what I should do. My dad lives about a half hour away, but I could see him anytime. I don't know. I took this pet sit. And while I was there, I was driving in Sarasota and I was having a really crappy day. I was trying to go to a meetup and I ended up being in a line of cars for a food co-op delivery or something. And I couldn't get out. There was no way out of the line. So I was stuck for like 45 minutes and I was trying to get the meetup and I had so much crappy thinking going on. It was ridiculous. I was really mad. And finally I got out. I couldn't drive I thought about driving over the curb. You know, it was ugly. And I was driving home and there was this billboard and on it, it said the word home. And like a flash, I felt in my body, you're going to live in Sarasota, Florida. I was like, this is home. I was like, what? What? No way. I had already lined up a bunch of stuff I was planning to be in California over the winter time. And I just kind of checked in. I'm like, does that mean I'm not going to California? And I got, no, you're still going to California. So I went to California and I did all those things. And then I came back to Sarasota. And I ended up living here. Like things unfolded in between. And I can't even tell you, I ended up in a relationship. I ended up living with him by accident. I mean, like really, there was nothing about that I said, I want to do this and I'm going to plan it. None of it. But it was perfect. It unfolded so perfectly. And if I had insisted on having a plan and knowing what I was doing, I never would have done those things. I never would be living this life that I have today. It's a miracle. We do not have to control our lives in order to have a brilliant one. In fact, I think it's more miraculous and more magical when we let go and just get on the magic carpet ride of life that's right in front of us, right here. And it's as simple as following what you're attracted to.
Yeah.
Would you like to read what you shared with me earlier?
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear it.
Yeah, I do too. So I just finished reading the book On the Road by Jack Kerouac. And I was telling Stephanie before we started this recording that I went back I wanted to take down a few notes. I underlined a few things and wanted to just write down a few things. And this was the first one. And it just reminds me of exactly what we've been talking about. So this comes early in the book, page 5 actually is when this happens. So it's right in the beginning of the book. It says, the only people for me are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, 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 like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars. And in the middle, you see the blue center light, and everybody goes, "Aw." And I feel like that's what we've been talking about, finding those people that are mad for life. It's like you sense that you can attract that, and it's awesome to find that in people and to live your life like that. I don't even fully know what the whole thing means, honestly, when he starts talking about spiders and stuff. But I just thought that it was so cool how he wrote that. I really didn't understand a lot of the book, honestly. It was a very difficult read and way out of our times, but so interesting to see people just, the whole point of the book was really just to find people like that and to live like that. It was at least what I got from it.
Is that what you're doing with your life?
I think so. I think that it's just been, obviously I'm not on the road right now, but I think that that's really a part of it. And I think that it's so cool to find that and to find those people and to be a part of those things. And, everybody always talks about finding things and being part of something bigger than yourself. And I feel like it's that, but it's just being with people. And once you're with those people, then you're becoming a part of something bigger than yourself.
It seems like most of our lives, and I'll just speak for myself here, most of my life I was searching for something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if I knew what it was. Maybe I thought I knew. It was a different life, a person, a feeling, God, various things at different times. But when I started finding what I was looking for was when I started looking in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know for so long where to look. When I started looking inside of myself, and by inside, I don't mean like, obviously not like, I had a hard time looking like inside, like my, I'm making like, I'm trying to look at my tonsils or like getting a mirror out or something, like not there. I don't mean that. And I don't mean into my psyche. Like, who is Stephanie? I don't know. Like, not that. Before all of that, it feels like it's inside because it's a part of me, but it actually is like before me. And I started finding the things I was looking for. Finding the love, finding the security, the sense of safety that I never had, finding the home, which has nothing to do with where I live in Sarasota or anywhere else. The home in me, And strangely enough, when I started finding that in me, I started finding it outside of me. And I look around at my life and I'm like, how is it possible that I meet so many amazing people and I have so many amazing conversations and there's so much love in my life? Not a day goes by that someone doesn't sincerely tell me they love me, and usually more than one someone. What is that? I did not engineer that. I could not have. There was a time when I felt so alone. And maybe I had a couple people who I felt close to, but there was so much stuff on it, so much weirdness around it. And I found what I was looking for when I stopped looking out there and I started looking inside. And I'm wondering if you're meeting these people who are just mad for life and on fire to be alive because you started looking somewhere else and you started catching fire with life. And now it's just, of course, it's everywhere.
It is. I couldn't agree with you more. It's so amazing. And it's such a I love when Michael Neal says this. He said like, how does he say? I think he says like everything's changed, but nothing is different. Is that how he said it? Is that the line?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like nothing on the outside has changed at all, but everything that I'm seeing and the people that I'm talking to and having these conversations with, it's so different. And I feel like something that changed, really, that sparked the change. It happened before I realized it, honestly. It happened before I noticed it, was when I was working at that finance job. I was so miserable. And I was like that, that 80s song, like working for the weekend. Like I was literally working to get to the weekend. Like I did not want to be at this job. I just wanted to like get out, get home, and then I could go and drink with my friends. We playing softball, whatever. We were doing our thing, having a blast, but I hated being there. And I just, it changed. And it changed once I got to Thailand, honestly. And I don't think it has anything to actually do with the location. But I just understood this different meaning. The joke that we used to say all the time in my friend group was, right out of college, we were all working our first jobs. And the joke was like, oh, like if I get hit by a car today, like I don't even care. If I get hit by a bus today, like it doesn't even matter. And you would say like the extended part of the joke was like, I hope it happens on the way to work because you don't want to go through your whole workday and then get hit by the bus. And so that was a joke. Like it was just like natural for us to like say, like nobody thought about actually like, running into traffic, but that was just something we said and everybody would laugh. And when I got to Thailand, I remember a very particular night we just finished eating dinner. We were crossing this 5-way intersection and there were cars coming from like it literally every single direction. It was out of control. And one of the girls said, all right, you guys be careful when you're crossing the street. And like naturally that joke came up into my head, like, oh, it doesn't even matter. But at that second, I like paused and I was like, well, now it kind of does matter because I do want to like be here tomorrow. Like I don't want to get hit by a car right now. And I know that it's so messed up and such a horrible example. And I'm sorry for anybody that has gotten hit by a car, but it changed the way that I thought about things and the way that I saw life, honestly, because it was like, at this point now, I don't want that anymore. Like I want to just live, enjoy it. So I know that was a lot, but
Oh, I love it. I'm hearing that even without you noticing, something came alive in you in a way that you weren't, and what I suspect, and tell me if it's this way for you or if it's different. But what I suspect is that it was always alive in you. There was always, it's like, that's what I say, like, how many years did I go through my life not realizing that love was all around me, that I was swimming in a sea of it, that I was made of it, and I could never be apart from it. I went so many years, the fish in water who didn't know was looking for water. I was the person on a horse looking for a horse.
Yeah.
I was my grandmother with her glasses on her head going, where are my glasses? Have you seen my glasses? That's who I was for most of my life. And so it's not a long journey to wake up to that. And you don't have to go to Thailand, but it's really awesome if you do.
Yeah, definitely recommend it, but you don't have to.
But once you're onto it, once that spark takes you, it's like, it's what we are. We're meant to burn, burn, burn. And not in that self-destructive way, but like on fire with desire and creativity and possibilities and inspiration.
And I know there's always that cheesy line that they say usually when you graduate, like, go set the world on fire. And I always kind of hated that, but I feel like if you go out and you are on fire, like with this passion to live and to be alive and to see things, that I think spreads. And I think that is actually like setting the world on fire. Like, you're not going to, I hate that I'm using that expression so much, but I just am seeing it a little bit differently because it's coming from you. It's not about going to places or being in the right spot at the right time or, being on a beach. I think that what was so crazy was after I came home from Thailand, that's when I started learning about the 3 principles and learning about coaching even more. I mean, I did my training in Thailand, but once I got home, I really got into it a lot more. And, I learned so much more about myself and about life in my backyard, my parents' backyard, than I did in Thailand. And I think that that's really something cool. So you don't have to quit your job or get on a plane. I mean, you can't even really do that right now. So you don't have to do that to go.
Have you read or are you familiar with the story, The Alchemist?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not the only story that has this moral, I guess we call it a moral, or the metaphor that's for us. It's like, he goes everywhere looking and looking and looking, and what he was looking for was right there under the tree. Like, right, as a spoiler for you, if you're listening and you haven't read it, I just spoiled the whole book for you. Sue me. But like it's we're here, we're in it. That setting the world on fire is like letting people see. It's like when people see that fire in you, the spark in them starts to ignite too. It's that awakening.
I always thought that it was similar to The Wizard of Oz too. I thought that was like one of my favorite movies when I was little, and I watched it recently and I was like, oh wow, like that's right in front of her. Like, she had those.
What part of it? Tell me more.
She could have like clicked her heels at any point.
Yeah.
I'll spoil that movie too. She clicked her heels and went home. If you haven't seen it by now, you're like 100 years late in that movie. But yeah, that was like the whole thing. They're searching. We got to find Oz. We got to find the wizard. And then it turned out that the wizard was like kind of full of it.
Yeah, and the cowardly lion, he had what he was looking for.
Had it all. They had it the whole time.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So what is it? I'm curious, because I know about your passion for coaching kids. And right now you're teaching kids. So is there something that you want to wake up in them? And what is that, if there is?
It is. And honestly, what I've been really pushing, because we do a lot of this and I talk about it a lot, is all about, the first thing, our class motto. If you ask any of my students in 5th grade, they'll tell you that the class motto is be curious, not judgmental. And that comes from Walt Whitman. But really it's to enjoy life as much as you can. And there's been so many things. I mean, the first lesson, I kind of stole this from Dead Poet Society. I won't spoil that movie, but in the first day of school, he says like he teaches them about carpe diem and seize the day. And that was like the first lesson that I shared with the kids. And they probably don't fully understand it at this point, but the fact that I keep talking about things that relate to that, one of my students said to me, she's like, they call me Mr. Dara. Like, Mr. Dara, like, it's so cool how all of your lessons keep tying in and they keep going back to the same thing. And she was like, how do you do that? And I was like, I didn't even really plan for most of this, but it just keeps showing up in the same way. And I think that that's really something important that I've noticed so many kids just don't have, a level of confidence, or, they're scared of what's happening, or there's, the mean girls, and then, they don't want to speak up in class. And I just wish that somebody came along the way and spoke to me about that in, high school or when I was playing, because when I was playing basketball, until a certain point, I was terrified. I was so in my head about the whole game that I really wasn't that great of a player. I could have been. And the minute I stopped doing that, my abilities like skyrocketed. So it wasn't like I just showed up one day and was great. Like I didn't have the like Mike sneakers and turn into Michael Jordan. I just stopped being scared of and stopped thinking so much and just showed up and played the game. And I just want more kids to be able to do that, to be able to show up and play the game and enjoy life, because we weren't put here to suffer or to work for the weekend. We were put here to enjoy the whole ride.
Mm, what a beautiful message. I wish that I had more teachers who were there to remind me or tell me those things instead of reinforcing rules. And I know that the ones who were reinforcing rules were trying to help me too.
Mm-hmm.
It really looked to them like you have to follow the rules and you have to do it right in order to be safe, in order to be successful, in order to get the things you want in life. But it was those few teachers who'd say, like, you can go for it. Like, live your life. You can enjoy it. Why not? Try. Put yourself out there. What do you think kids really need to know that would make the biggest difference?
I think that the biggest difference would be that it's so simple, and I hate to even like say this honestly, but it's just that like you're okay. It's like beneath all of that crazy stuff, even if that girl next to you is making fun of you, or even if you didn't make the basketball team, or even if you broke your wrist, or maybe you take your test and it takes you an extra half hour compared to everybody else. um, you know Underneath all of that, you're still okay, and there's nothing wrong with you, and it's okay to be who you are. You don't have to change or be different for anybody. And I think that it's such an important message to share with kids, and I don't think they hear it enough.
Mm.
And I
I
don't
don't,
think social media is helping either, or some of these news outlets and stuff that famous people are not really helping as much as they could be.
mm. I don't think grown-ups hear it enough either.
No.
Do you know that now, Martin? Do you know that you're okay?
I do, and it took a long time, honestly.
Uh-huh.
It really goes back to that looking in the wrong direction. And even the thing you were saying about being surrounded by love. I mean, my parents, my mom, my dad, my three sisters, all my cousins and aunts and uncles, and like, just being surrounded by that love so much, and just missing it, honestly, and not noticing it, is sad. And I think that there's people that aren't like they maybe don't have that big of a family, or they don't have that, safe environment at home, and they need to hear it too, and they need to know about it. I just wish that there was more ways to reach those kids and to share that love with them.
Mm. It's really beautiful, Martin. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So if people would like to find you and then reach out to you in some way, where's the best place for them to go if they want to connect with Mr. Martin?
So I have I need to get a title, honestly, because it's just Martin Dara Coaching at the moment. So it's nothing original or crazy. So I got to come up with something. But for now, you can find me at Martin Dara Coaching. I'm on Instagram. I have a Facebook page under the same name, like no spaces or underscores. It's just one boring word, but it's amazing. So you could go. I'm even on Gmail. You can write me an email if you're interested. Martin Dara Coaching.
Beautiful.
I love clearly I love meeting people and talking to people and having these rich conversations. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out and we can find that spark somewhere.
Thanks so much for joining me for today's Wildspire conversation. If you'd like to receive a weekly Wildspire email from me filled with inspiring stories, unmarketing experiments, tips for playing your way to impact and income without the hustle and hype, insights from my spiritual business journey, and more, go to theawakenedbusiness.com/wildspire. Until next time, may you know yourself as the gorgeous wild creation you are.